All right, demo time. So I wanted to go over the new Conduit pipeline benchmarking tools that I've been adding. Um, so this is building off of the previous pipeline testing jobs, but I changed almost every part of how you use it. So I wanted to go over the new things here. So let's jump right into it by starting a new job. So building with parameters here. So the first thing you'll notice is that there are many more parameters than before. And let me go ahead and fill out everything. Demo job. So here we're going to create a demo job. This is just a unique ID that you fill in. We've got this script now. So this is going to define exactly what sort of task is going to run once it starts up. So for this demo, we're going to just do an empty database so that you can see it doing its thing. Actually, you know what? Let's do a snapshot. So this isn't going to complete, but we'll be able to see it doing things. There's a bunch of information that's for reporting later on, so you can fill that in here. We are using a snapshot in this case. Let me go ahead and say Postgres 13, so we'll look for that a little bit later. We are going to use an extra EBS device here, so that's going to be mounted at that location. There's usage information in these descriptions, so extra EBS, so we're going to toggle on connecting an extra storage device. Let's just leave the default, so GP3 3000 IOPS. All right, now you can configure where everything's going to be installed. I'm going to leave the defaults except for Postgres, which I'll go ahead and put on that third device, the EBS drive that we're attaching. And EC2 key pair, this is something that you've got to configure ahead of time. So I've got one with my name. Skip setup, no, this is for just testing, and all of this is currently in a branch. So we're going to specify that branch and build. All right, so that's going to kick off. While it's going, let's go ahead and connect to one of these other things. So this is using Terraform to provision a machine, and we've got it set up now so that it's going to put the SSH command right in the description here. So let me switch to a terminal. Here we go. So switch to that terminal. Make that a little bit bigger. Perfect. So here's our SSH command is going to connect in. Come on. Oh, this is one that had previously been destroyed. I clicked the wrong one. Let me switch back. All right, this one is still running. Yeah, so this is also tearing down resources after they're done, and that one had been torn down. Okay, so here we go, connecting to another one. So here's the IO2 Postgres 14 empty database. So this is the same one, so you know you're connecting to the right thing. All right, so this has a test running, and it's put all the output in script output here. So you can see, yeah, so here's the first scenario. It's 25,000 transactions per block test, and now it's moving on to a 50,000 transaction per block test, and that is still in progress. And that's just going to keep running until it's finished. I can also, oh, you know what? I can run the command here to generate a report. This is going to have an error because it's still in progress, but you can see, let's see, here's one line of the CSV, and you can see 17,236 transactions per second during that benchmark. All right, so let's switch over to the code. That's going to be, here we go. So I'm going to go through this as quickly as possible. You can ask questions if anything is still not clear. So basically all those parameters, this is the Jenkins pipeline. I believe it's the DSL syntax. So we've got a bunch of parameters defined. So these are just all the things we were looking at, and they've got variables associated with them. I'm going to skip over all the miscellaneous things and try to just focus on the highlights. All right, so this is interesting. This is how we get the description and the new display name. Essentially, Jenkins provides these variables. If you set them, it's going to update the UI. So we're pulling out the SSH command with teragrunt, return standard out to true here. So that's how we get SSH command, and then we can just use it elsewhere. So this is how we update the UI there. Okay. All right, so here's where we call the Ansible job. This is doing all the actual provisioning or configuration. We're using the extra vars flag here and just essentially passing all of these things right into Ansible so they can be used downstream. And last but not least, we'll look at this later. So there's a push button destroy. So when you're done with the environment, you just go into that pipeline view and, well, you can destroy the machine. And that's going to be very convenient when you're actually using this thing. Okay, so moving on to the playbook. I'm going to focus on just this piece here. So previously the setup script was essentially you run it with no arguments. Now there are many arguments. So all those things that you saw before, those are passed right into the script. And that's where most of the interesting stuff happens. So aside from that, not much has changed in the Ansible job. All right. Okay, so now here is the setup script. And yeah, most of the work here has been parameterizing things, turning them into stuff that you can change as needed, and just generally making it a little bit more flexible. So there's a lot of like script stuff. Hard-coded algod token is always a good thing. Postgres information is available, and we've got this main parameter parsing loop. Here's where you actually set everything. So here's the arguments you saw above. Yeah, and then we're just gonna basically jump into each function. So it's building some different things. So like this, the versions you're using are slightly more configurable than before. If you want to build algod, that's going to happen here. For some reason, from time to time, that's useful. I wanted to build the block generator tool, so I added that in. The Postgres install, here we're installing the apt source so that we can install things directly from upstream Postgres releases. So this is how we get the different versions of Postgres. Let's see what else is interesting here. It honestly has not changed all that much, just a lot of parameterization like this. We're actually building these tools now, so you don't have to use go run, which we were doing before. So now those are just pre-built, so you just run them directly. Here's now we're getting into the scripts, so those different tasks. So it's actually going to automatically do certain things. So here's the snapshot restore script. Essentially, it's using the AWS CLI command to pull down a snapshot from one of our S3 drives, and yeah, then just decompress it and send it directly to Postgres. So that's restoring a snapshot. We've got this tool to run the benchmark. So that's a script available here called benchmark run. And here's the new reporting tool. So here it is defining them and passing them in as arguments. I think most of these, you could essentially run this without arguments because it's going to be looking them up from environment variables these days. And I think that's pretty much it. We've got a bunch of things exported. So when you connect to the machine, it's all set up. Some minor updates to the FAQ that's printed when you connect. All right, here we're doing the start script. So we're creating this start script. We're sourcing that automation.sh file, which has all of your environment variables. And here's the same strings from that test script dropdown. So for example, in our demo, we're running the snapshot DB. So that's going to run benchmark restore and run, which we saw above. If you don't want to restore the snapshot, can run it with an empty DB, and that'll skip the restore step. And we haven't added this one yet, the catch up and validate. We've got the scripts, just need to plug it in here. And that's pretty much it for the setup script. And last but not least, I'm not going to go into much detail at all with this, but this converts our report files into CSVs. So this is using the yourfave CLI library to do command line parsing. So here's what I was talking about earlier. So here's the command. Here are the flags that the command accepts. So the report directory, the source, well, all these things, and also it defines environment variables. So all these environment variables are set. So practically speaking, you can run this without any arguments. Things like the instance type will be querying AWS directly to get that. Same with the Postgres version. It will run the PSQL version command. But yeah, we've got all these, and then just looping through files, grabbing data, printing it out in a comma separated format. And that's pretty much it for the code changes. So let's go ahead and check in on that demo. So I've been talking for a while here, and it's now finished and it's paused. So I can connect to it. So let me grab the connection information and switch over to the terminal. Can connect in. I've never connected to this machine before, of course. And if I tail the script output file, here we go. That it's downloading my snapshot is going to take a while, so we're not going to watch it now. But once it's done downloading the snapshot, it will restore it into Postgres, and well, there you go. Then we can run the benchmark. Let's see, let's double check that it's running the correct version of Postgres. There we go, we've got 12.15. So hopefully that's the version we typed in earlier. And let's see, last but not least, let me go back to that previous machine. And now that you've seen the code, let's run that report again. Oh, it looks like the a second test has finished while I was talking. So 25,000 transactions per block and 50,000 transactions per block with the same workload, this organic workload. We can see 17,000 transactions per second and 18,000 transactions per second. So that's going to continue on with all the other scenarios that we've got configured. And if I look at the script output, yeah, you can see here it's just first job, second job. Here we go. First job, second job, and it just started the third job while I was talking. So it's moving on to the payment test. If I had started with that one, we would have seen the big TPS numbers. All right. Well, that is just about it. Let me know if you got any questions. Hope this tool is useful to everybody.